Welcome to Miss V, the Storyteller podcast. I am so excited. In the month of April, I'm having some of the guests who were here before to come back, and I am just so excited about the stories. Each one of them, their journey from then to now, it is so special. Different things have happened to them, and all kinds of things have happened, and they have new stories to share. So I'm so excited. And my guest today is my best friend. I love her, love her, love her. I'm biased. Her name is Dr. Katrina Miller, and we are so excited. Dr. Katrina Miller is here with us today. And so, right now, what she's going to do is she's going to tell us a little bit about herself, and then we're going to circle back and we're going to talk about some stories. We're going to share some stories. So, Dr. Miller, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for the invitation, Ms. V. I am Katrina Miller. I am a friend, sister, daughter, all those good things. And I'm also by profession a speech language pathologist. I work in a university setting, and some people may know what a speech pathologist is. It's a fancy way of saying we help people talk, but I do all things human communication. I also am the owner of K.E. Miller Enterprises, which is a communication empowerment company. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about what is available, what they have to offer, and all that good stuff. I am also the author of a devotional, which I'm extremely proud of. It's called Soap Notes, Cleansing Thoughts for Healthcare Workers. And it's a culmination of, based on some of my experiences as a speech language pathologist in a variety of settings. And it's can speak to not only persons that work in healthcare, but I think anybody, because some of
Mm-hmm.
the stories are really relatable in
Yes.
terms of life events. So I was really excited about that. I've always wanted to do that. And I really love devotionals. I'm also am a contributing author for Living in the Key of Joy. I think we've had 4 volumes of that,
Mm-hmm.
and one more volume will be coming this summer, which will be the last volume for
Yes.
Living in the Key of Joy. And I've really enjoyed being a part of that collaboration. Professionally, I work at a university in Northern Virginia. It's been my dream job. I can actually say I'm living in my dream, and I have enjoyed working through that and meeting different people and experiencing things. I enjoy traveling. I've traveled internationally and been able to utilize some of my professional skills for that. So life is good, and I'm excited about
Yes.
being here today to share some of that.
Yes, 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 yes. I am so proud of her because I'm telling you, becoming a doctor, writing a book, being a part of the anthology. I'm also a part of the very first one. So I just love it. So many great things that has happened to her and for her. But the thing about it is the stories that come along when we accomplish
Yes.
things, when we do things. And what we need to do is we need to share those stories to encourage other people, to
Mm-hmm.
uplift. And that's what Miss V, the Storyteller podcast is all about. It's about bringing women entrepreneurs together, sharing our stories to encourage, to uplift each other, and to just put our stories into the world so that anyone out there that's struggling, they can say, hey, I'm going through that, but I like the way she handled it. Maybe I should try that way to come out on the other side. So today, Dr. Miller is going to share a story with us. So, Dr. Miller, go ahead and share your story.
Great. I wanted to kind of share a story that it's never too late. I didn't even really think about this part of my journey until we were kind of past it, I guess I could say. But I've always enjoyed my profession, and one of my mentors early in my career told me that you don't go back to school to get a doctorate degree unless you want to do it for yourself, that you can't do it for your mom or your parents or even for the coworkers. You have to do it for yourself. So it's a standard joke that I used to always say, "Oh, I'm not trying to advance my career." And folks would always say, "You should go back to school." And I was like, that's not something I want to do. I obtain a master's, which is required or terminal degree for the profession, but I was fairly content. And then I got my first job at the university. And I kind of slipped into that because I never really thought that I wanted to work at a university, but I always have enjoyed mentorship. So this particular position came about because I had done some mentorship with some students from this university in North Carolina, and they actually called me one day and said, "There's an opening at the university, and we think you should apply." So that was funny. I said, "Yeah, okay." And I got another call from another student that were former students, and this time they had graduated. And I said, "Well, maybe I should consider that." And I did indeed. And that part of my journey was very interesting because I had applied previously through my career for positions at the university and had not received them. And so I
Oh.
kind of pushed that thought aside. As a matter of fact, this was the third time I had applied for a university position and was offered it. And I often look back and say it was just the right time. At that point, I had enough experience, I think, to be able to share with other students. So anyway, fairly content working at that level in my field. You can do that at a master's level. And one day on a dare, at a
Mm.
conference with two other colleagues and very good friends of mine. We talked to a recruiter for a university, Nova Southeastern, who also happened to be a friend of ours. And we just bombarded her with all kind of questions about what we want about this program and starting our doctorate. And so we kind of got the fever. So the three of us decided that what we were going to do was going to apply because we were very concerned that we wouldn't get in. We would apply. We wouldn't talk about it to anybody, not even to each other. And once we got our letters of rejection or acceptance, we would then share with each other. So on this dare, I began to get all my paperwork together. I had to take standardized tests. At that time, it was the GRE or the Miller analogies, which of course quite nerve wracking. But hey, the Miller analogy, named after me, sounds like something I could take.
Yes.
So I even had to find where to take those because it had been years since I took those standardized tests. So I did that, got the courage to ask folks to write my letter of recommendation and my own essay, had a couple of close friends to look over that, and kind of said a little prayer and sent off the packet and waited. Well, sure enough, I got into school. Very excited, all of those emotions that come. And I called my other two challengers and I said, I got accepted. What happened with you guys? And they told me that they had not even completed the applications. They had
Oh
not.
my.
So I said, you know what? It must be meant for me to go to school.
Yes.
Sidebar, I need to say, I was about 51 years old when folks are thinking about winding down when I was starting this journey. I even had some folks to say, are you going to retire or will you be able to utilize that degree? But at this point, I had made a decision that I was going to go and we just kind of see what was going to happen. So it was quite interesting that part of the journey because for the most part, I was a lot older than my professors
Mm.
and even my classmates. So that didn't really hinder me. I really honestly didn't think about it until after the journey because I just kind of immersed myself in that. It took me about, I guess, 7 years, I think, to finish. I worked, did it part time. It was not an easy journey because I worked. One of the things I could say is I live alone, so I could really do that sleep wake kind of pattern that
Mm-hmm.
you do in school. Um, my mother passed during that time, so I had to deal with that during that part of the journey. Um, it was quite interesting. There were lots of times where I kept asking myself, why am I putting myself through this? One side story I remember so vividly is I'd gone to Virginia Beach. I come down to Virginia Beach to attend a conference, and I had friends that had come, and we were having so much fun, and they were going to stay there the weekend. But I knew I had a class on Sunday because most of it was online, and I kept figuring out how I could stay and get up and get to class and get this work done. And I realized that there was absolutely no way I needed to leave that Saturday morning to get back in time. And I literally cried from Virginia Beach
Oh,
all the way back home to North Carolina because I kept asking, why are you putting yourself through this?
yeah.
Why are you doing this? You've missed out on these opportunities to be with your friends, to enjoy. And I remember that real vividly because it was one of those things where okay, this is what you decided to do, and you got to make it work. So I
Yeah.
drove back, and there were a lot of other times that things like that occurred, especially during the part of when it was time to write. And I knew that your dissertation, folks told me that it's a lonely part of the journey, and it is, because
Mm-hmm.
only people who've been through can really understand what's happening. And even if you have a good team that kind of is like a group project, everybody kept telling me it's a group project. They would read stuff and you think it'd be together. And I remember one time I had written a chapter where you write and you look over everybody else's, and I said, "Oh, this is really good." And they said, "Yeah, this is good, Katrina, but you need to go back and add about 30 more pages."
Oh
And
my.
that's exactly what I said. Oh my. Um, Anybody who's done dissertation work, you kind of get used to writing papers. You can almost do them with your eyes closed because 9 and 10 page papers are due regularly during the week. It's this just regular habit. So even that, but thinking of 30 more pages can be quite daunting
Mm-hmm.
when you're dealing with that. So it took a little while to kind of get through that. And I remember when I had collected data and I was looking at stuff, I started looking at my timeline, and it was around August or September. And I said, wow, you know what? I wonder if I could be finished with this in the summer, by this coming summer, because I had planned a trip abroad for work. I was doing a internationally a travel abroad, taking some students to China, and I said I need to finish this because I was leaving for China, and I had timelines for that. And I said if I don't finish it, I'll push it back another semester. So I remember calling my dissertation chair and said, I'm leaving for China in June. Do you think I could finish this? Could be finished? And he was thinking, yeah. And I was like, it could really be finished by then? He goes, yeah. So that was really all the motivation I kind of needed. I crunched the data, the numbers, and just kept writing and writing and writing. And around March, we got the approval and everything was accepted. And I was about to finish. I was going to be marching in June. So I was real excited. And during that time, it got real expensive. I was thinking I was finishing up. It takes quite a bit of money to get your dissertation proofed and that. And so I was looking at money for that. And I was thinking of the regalia was over $1,000 for that.
Wow.
And said, uh, I don't know if I'm gonna march because it's gonna be hard. The ceremony was in Florida. I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to get my dad down there. He was, elderly, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to think about any friends going. And I remember calling my father and I told him, I said, I don't think I'm gonna march, Dad, because it's just a lot of moving pieces. And I remember him so clearly saying,
That's right.
no, we go March, honey. So
Yes.
we'll figure out how to do it. So I'm real, real grateful that I followed through with that because 90 days later, my father was gone. He had passed
Yeah.
away. And I often think that what if I hadn't marched? Because he was so excited
Yeah.
about that. And the
Yeah.
really, really exciting part was the my folks showed up. My
Yeah.
family came, my friends came, and we actually had a party there in Florida after graduation. So I shared that with folks who've ever had a dream or thought of something that is really obtainable and it's really never ever too late. And as a result, I literally have been hired to do a dream job. I completely have written curriculum for a new program starting from a thought,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exciting. And I just look at what if I hadn't
Yeah.
filled out the application, or what if I had been accepted and said, this is too much to do. And so I say that to anybody that's listening, no matter how big or small it is,
Mm-hmm.
go for it. It doesn't have to be a degree, but
Yeah.
it may be something smaller. You've always wanted to, I don't know, try skydiving or even learn how to ride a bike. Or I had a friend that wanted to do a marathon, so she trained to do a marathon. So it's whatever that little or big dream is, I would just encourage you to take that first step and get it done. It is definitely
Yeah.
worthwhile.
Well, we were so proud of her. I could not make it. She just doesn't know. I was bawling. I was so I was so sad that I couldn't make it. I was bawling like something tragic had happened. And to me, it was. And she never knew this, but I was bawling.
Wow.
And then when the pictures came, tears were rolling every time a picture came. And at one point, I was like, I wish she stopped sending these pictures. But I was so happy for her, but I was so sad that I couldn't be there to share that moment with her because we walked through the journey with her. There was times on the phone where it was like I gotta write, especially the 30 page. I remember that 34 pages. I remember that. But I love this story that you shared because it is really a testament to say you never know what your journey is.
Right.
And that was a part of your journey because God knew what was going to happen down the
Right.
line. And just sitting at the table and the three of you all saying, let's do this. And you actually doing it
Yeah.
and getting it done. And now you're Dr. Miller. Another thing about her is when she first became Dr. Miller, we would call her, everybody was calling her that. And she was like, y'all could just call me Katrina. No. 7 years, Dr. Katrina. As you noticed at the beginning, I said Dr. Miller because
Yes.
she worked hard for it. But I wanted to share a little bit of a story about me because I love this about, it's never too late. I became a storyteller much later,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of storytellers that are out there, and a lot of them are older, and they started much earlier than I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I never saw myself as a storyteller. I used to tell stories all the time when I taught school. I used to make up stories for the students, and sometimes the parents thought it was a real book, and because the kids would come home and they would talk about it. And I remember one day a parent came in and she said, I want to buy the book because Jeremy keeps coming home and he talks about the pumpkins and with the two eyes and a nose. And one day I sat down and I literally made this story up. But then every day they wanted to hear it. So I kept sharing it with them to the point. And what I didn't know was I was a storyteller then. And then years later, it was told to me that, God wanted me to be a storyteller. And my initial thing was, you talking to who? You
Mm-hmm.
want me to be a storyteller? I'm like, I'm older than most people
Mm-hmm.
who start to be storytellers. Like I said, all of my mentor, she started like 20 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
here I am starting to be a storyteller. I was like, but I did. And it was during the pandemic, and I looked online. I went to conferences during the pandemic. I entered contests and I did all of those things, but it never crossed my mind to say, you're too old for this once I made the decision.
Right.
Once I said, I'm gonna be a storyteller, I'm gonna learn how to craft, I'm gonna do all of this. And the fact that I was winning contests, that had a lot to do with it because people could not believe that I was a new storyteller. But I never thought after the decision, you're too old for this.
Mm-hmm.
After the decision, before, because we make up reasons and we come up with all these different things as to why not to do something. But when it was what is that the same thing with you? Once you got in and all that, the age thing just went out your head, did it?
I never really honestly even thought about it until somebody brought it up later, on. I think somebody said, well, are you gonna what was the word they used? Are you gonna reap the benefits of it,
Mm,
during your lifetime? And I had never really thought about it, that I just knew that it was a decision I had made, and I really didn't even know what I was going to do with it. I knew what I wanted to do with it and what was in my mind, because that's how I, decided on what to go back to school for. I said, what would you ultimately like to do? And when people come and ask me, so I thought, the wildest thing that I would ultimately try to do. And so I said, okay, this is how I'll pattern this degree. But I really didn't think of it. Probably it was maybe a year or two in when I was sitting in the class and all the classes were virtual. It just a virtual had just gotten into thing. We weren't even a Zoom. It's one of those classes where the classes were in Florida and we would like log in to see the classes and be part of the class. And I remember looking around, especially when I would look at the video in the classrooms. I was like, oh my goodness, they're little, really young folks there. And it kind of hit me that, no, you're older. And some of the professors, not a whole, a whole lot, they no, I wasn't ever treated differently. I would just think, okay, you're a young chickadee, teaching me these concepts and things. So kind of when I got into the program, I began to kind of see it. And really with this latest job, I think when right before I was hired, she said, oh, you're going to want to, start looking at your faculty this way because you do want to retire one day. And I was thinking, you know what, she's right. I guess I do want to retire one day. And so then that's really when it clicked in. And as I moved through this, I said, I'm making my contingency plans as I go. But it just never really dawned on me till somebody brought it up that, in terms of age.
For me, one of the things when I was doing a show,
Mm-hmm.
and it was during the pandemic, so Zoom was on. It was a Zoom, and I was doing it across the pond,
Mm-hmm.
the American and I think it was England, Africa, and it was some. So when I looked at the box, because I called the little boxes, Zoom,
Yeah,
all the
the
little
Brady Bunch
boxes, and I'm
boxes.
looking
That's
at
what I
all
call them.
these people, and I'm like, oh my God. Now, this was the first time like age really hit me
Mm-hmm.
because everybody in the box was much older than I was. So when it was time for me to tell my story, I was so intimidated because I'm like, these are seasoned, these are like the best storytellers, and I'm over here, this little one. I was like, I told my story, and all the response was so good, and most of them could not believe that I was new. Like this I had only been doing it a year or 2 years, so
That's great.
that was like wow,
That's cool.
that was really like a oh my goodness. So it really
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. And then there was another contest I was in, and I was so grateful. I was not the youngest. I was, it was like two people that came and they started because now it's so popular now. They have these
Right,
places and all that. So storytelling, storytellers are being younger now. And when I
right.
saw them, I was like, yes, I
Like
am not.
spoken word, I think that's what they
Yes,
call it.
yes, the
Spoken word.
spoken word or
Mm-hmm.
telling and all that. But this is a question that I just absolutely love to ask. When you think back over that entire 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
all the papers being written, you know, all the late nights and all that. What was the biggest lesson you learned from that period in your time? For me, what I learned from the storytelling and from all that is I have to stop doubting myself. That was so I had to that was something because I kept every time that I had a show to do or every time I was writing a story or every time I was doing something, I was like, why are you doing this? Can you really, yeah, you won that contest, but that's just a fluke. That don't mean nothing. But then when I won the second one, I was like, oh, maybe. But I learned about self-doubt and to just put it away. Do not allow it to be a part of your journey. So self-doubt was one of the biggest things that I learned.
Um, Perseverance was it for
I like
me.
that.
Um, a lot of times when I would be sitting in literally in front of the computer and I was plagued with writing something or putting something down, and I just felt like there was nothing else left in me. I was often so amazed at how the thoughts would come or an idea would come to mind, and the next thing I know, I was shooting out, you know, pages and pages of stuff, or I got an idea and it was just really, really flowing. And I think about those times when I couldn't, there are a lot of times where I just could not really physically like move again. I said, I am just completely exhausted. I've got to go to bed, and how those things times really rejuvenated me. And when I
Mm-hmm.
look back, as that old Aretha Franklin song, my soul looks back and wonder how I got over.
Mm-hmm.
I think about that often because there were times, like I said, I just can't think of another thought. There's not another idea. I don't know. I remember after spending weeks gathering all this information, this data, and academics love data. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this now? I just like absolutely had no idea what was next. And I remember literally sitting in there looking at this computer and I have no idea. And that's when I began to pull on my help, as they say. In
Mm-hmm.
addition to praying, I use physical people. And I remember just breaking it down. And I think I called the person on my committee, that's the speech person, and said, you know what? I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this data. And I appreciate that I was honest about, where I start. And that she was even more receptive as, okay, it's good stuff. This is what we do. And just that little bit of, this is how you do it. I was able to kind of put it in perspective and, get over the next hump, just from those words. So I really learned the perseverance part, that part that's in you. And then when it's time to call in a reinforcement, you're not doing it just all yourself. That it's okay if you need somebody to kind of push you for that. So that
I
was, I
like
think,
that.
that was the biggest lesson. Mm-hmm.
I like that because I'm just learning that about asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
She knows me, you know me,
Mm-hmm.
asking for help. Because I will sit here and be so overwhelmed and feel like I have to carry the weight of the world. And I'm just really growing into that part of my life where I can say, you know what, Valeria, you need help. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not okay. I need somebody to help me.
Yeah.
And so when you said that, I'm like, that's where I am now. But this is another question I love for anyone that's out there that's listening and they're even thinking about, trying something new or, because you said, it's never too late. What would be a piece of advice that you would give them to maybe push them over and say, you know what, just do it, to encourage them to go ahead. One of the things I know from me is just like I said, just push doubt out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just start. And a lot of times you don't even know where to start. But I find that once you take that first move toward that goal or that thing, it seems that the resources will come, or the help will come. So even if that one step is, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do next, reaching out to ask somebody who
Mm-hmm.
could give you that, taking that step. Or I know I need to, like when I had to take the Miller analogies, I said, I have no idea where you even take these tests anymore because I've been out of school for so long. And if you've ever been in school, you know about the SATs and
Mm-hmm.
the ACTs and the GRE. And I had
Mm-hmm.
taken the GRE probably about 20 years, previously, because we were immersed in that. But I said, I don't even know if they're offering these now. We did it old fashioned where you go and put the little circles, color the circles for the test,
Yes.
but everything is computerized, and
Yes.
you go to the computer. And so just even finding that, I'm trying to remember. I probably just went to Google and just said, Miller analogies, where do you take this, test? So just something like that, even just starting, you know, I had to get up enough nerve to ask people to write my letter of recommendation, which
Mm-hmm.
means also exposing yourself, because now you've
Yeah.
told somebody that you plan on going back to school at your age and you want them to write a letter of recommendation. So, and then you don't want to necessarily go back to your old professors because, like I said, we're talking, for me, 15, 20 years ago. So you're looking at colleagues, or you're looking at somebody who's familiar and has been on this journey before. So even, asking for a letter of recommendation, I thought took a lot of courage because, like I said, you're exposing yourself, to let them know, and I don't know, they might have said, oh, she going back to school with her old self. I don't know. They wrote nice letters. So I think it's just, having that courage to take that first step. And it's okay if you don't even know what that first step is, because finding out what that first step is or how to take it is, to me, is part of even that courage journey that you take, part of your journey.
But didn't you find it freeing once you got into it? Like, okay, I'm in my 50s, I'm going to be a doctor. Did you find it a little bit freeing, especially after you asked that first person to write the letter? At any point, did you say, okay, you know what, I'm in this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to just be free and be me?
Yeah, I think you get to something that you're in it, and it's like how you're in the middle, and it's like, okay, I can't turn around, or I've
Mm-hmm.
come too far. And if nothing else, you want to have to see what the end is going to be, because the other thing you hear people say, oh, there's so many folks. I think it's like, I forgot the percentage of people. Most people with doctor degrees, I think they said it's like 1%, 2%,
Oh,
something really
wow.
low of people. And then for the African American community is even smaller. So
More,
I
yeah.
remember I remember being in line in graduation and somebody said, we're the 1%. I was like, really? Is that low? And I should know, but it's really a small percentage. And there are lots and lots of people who finish the coursework and don't finish the dissertation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was so determined, I'm not going to be that person. Because I knew lots of folks. I knew several people that had gotten
Yeah.
through and had not finished their dissertation. And so at that point, it became like, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to finish this. And like I said, it took a while because I did indeed. And I can easily see how you lose kind of
Mm-hmm.
hope and strength. Because I finished my coursework after about maybe 3 or 4 years. So you finish your coursework fairly, and the goal is you're supposed to write while you do your courses, haha. But there were so those remaining years, I was just doing dissertation, and they keep you going. And my chair was really good. A couple of nights he really ticked me off, and that really helped me. Like, you're not gonna finish this. I was like, oh wait, whoa, 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 the sister girl here.
Yeah.
I would hang up and say, wait a minute. I know he didn't say I'm not gonna finish this, or he would tell me, you just need to do it and just finishing. And those things for me were motivating because I get ticked off, but he was like, oh, wait a minute now, who does he think he is trying to tell me that this is not gonna be finished or I need to do it? Oh. So I like that too because it didn't let me get into my self-pity mode
Okay.
and kind of like, okay, that's me. Some people aren't motivated like that, but I was. And then my other person, they were kind of battle each other. Well, you need to write this over again. It's like, okay, everybody crazy right now in terms of, but I appreciate all of that because it also instilled in you the fact that I believe in what I'm doing and this is right, and I can fight you intellectually on why this is done this way, and that also kind of prepares you for that whole world of academia. And I remember somebody said, "Is getting a doctorate, is it hard?" I said, it's not so much hard as a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. And the premise for me has been, okay, so this is something you feel is true, prove it.
Okay. I
And
like
that's how
that.
I would sum up uh
Oh, I like that.
dissertation, a doctorate degree. Okay, prove it. If you believe
Yeah.
this is true, prove
So
it.
it's
And
kind of like prove it. You can do it. If you
yeah,
if it's a thought and it's something that you want to do, you can do it. It may not be perfect, but if you just take the first step and just do it.
right,
I love it. I love it.
right.
I love it. I love it. There are some things that I would really like to do, and the I'm gonna just do it. I'm just gonna do it, and that way I won't look back and say, God, I wish I
Yes,
had of. I wish I shoulda, woulda, coulda, but I didn't. Oh, I
yes.
love that. So I want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit where we can find the books that you're a part of, and if you have anything that's going on, if there's someone out there that want to connect with you, they even ask you questions about, oh my God, you went back to school, or someone that may connect with you on this episode and say, I want to ask her something because I love the fact that she shared that about her journey going back to school. So where can we find you, the books and all of that? Oh, and this, for those of you who are watching, this is the book. Yay.
Thank you. My website is katrinaemiller.com, and you can order the book from there. Of course, I am on Amazon, but you can also order through my website. And I also have information there in terms of what exactly a speech language pathologist is and what exactly I do. And you can communicate through that. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn. My Instagram is KE Miller Enterprises. So feel free to reach out to me, as the children say, DM me on KE Miller Enterprises. That's the name of my company. And I do all things human communication. So I'm doing workshop next week. I'll be in Raleigh, North Carolina, doing some training and teaching on stress in the speech language pathologist. And
Mm.
we're doing a panel with some persons that are founders of the organization there in Raleigh. So I'll be in Raleigh doing that. Last week before last, I was at the Speech and Hearing Convention in Virginia, and I did some teaching and training there on counseling and healthcare professions. I am available for workshops, and not just at your university. I also work with young people, and I really enjoy workshops. One of the favorite workshops I did was part of an etiquette workshop with
Mm.
some preteens. And as they were doing their etiquette work. I help them with communication and in terms of talking. It's a lot of controversy about code switching, and as we say, talking proper is a little like way of saying, and being more inclusive. But I really would like children and young adults to know that there's a difference. So if nothing else, if they can feel free to use their vernacular in whatever setting, but to know that there are different settings and different type of approaches and communication styles, if I could use it that term. So I do workshops with that. Um, I think one of the most fun things I did with a group of women, we did Talk the Runway, which was a great
Oh, yeah.
afternoon where we practice our affirmations and some communication, different settings, and that sort of thing. So I can kind of create whatever you need me to create for corporate, hometown, church, just kind of whatever you need, all things human communication.
Oh, love it. So if you're out there and you're listening and you need someone to help you craft a program or anything, Dr. Katrina Miller is the bomb.com.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much for being here. I will make sure that her contact information, the names of the books and everything are in the notes so you'll be able to see the soap note. That's the book that I showed you all. And also the other ones, Living in the Key of Joy, volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and all of that. So it'll be in the notes. So again, thank you, Dr. Miller, for being here. We enjoyed your story. And we are going to just do it because
Let's
it's
do it.
never too late.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And it's never, never too late. Remember that